Hello, here are the answers to what do we have to do now. For the first one, we need to put our decimal right between the 6 and the 8. So our coefficient would be 6.89 times 10. Then to figure out the exponent, it's from the back of the whole number to where we move the decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So our exponent is 5. For the second one, I can see it's a very small number, so I keep in mind that means we'll have a negative exponent. Our coefficient will be between the 7 and the 8, so the decimal goes there. 7.8 times 10, and now we move our decimal from the original decimal to the arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves, small number, negative exponent. Did you get these correct? So there are a few ways to solve this problem. You could grab a calculator and put your calculator in the science mode, and the key there would just be to make sure you use the grouping symbols for this problem. So if you carefully type everything in, you'll get this answer. 6.12 times 10 to the 8th power. If you did this by hand, you would have to have the same power of 10. So we would make this 10 to the 8th power, which would make this 0.42. And then we can add 5.7 plus 0.42, and then that gives us 6.12 times 10 to the 8th power. So that's another way without a calculator, but it's okay if you put your calculator in scientific notation mode. A third way would be to put these in standard form and then add your large numbers together and then put your answer back into scientific notation. Either way, here's our answer. Okay, same thing with this one. There are multiple ways to solve this problem. If you use your calculator and you put it in science mode, then just be very careful to type in the grouping symbols and type it in exactly as you see. Use the caret key to get the exponents in. By doing so, you'll get an answer of 3.52 times 10 to the negative 4th power. If we used our exponent properties, we could multiply 8.8 times 4 if we put our calculator back into flow into the regular mode, and we would get 35.2. And then seeing here that the bases are the same and we're multiplying, we would keep the base and we would add the exponents, which gives you -5, and then we need to put this back into scientific notation. So 3.52 times 10. If we move it 1 to the left, then we add 1 to this, which becomes -4. So that's a little bit more complicated. I would prefer just to use the calculator in scientific notation mode. Okay, and a little bit of problem solving. The size of Texas is 2.685 times 10 to the 5th square miles, and the state of Ohio covers 4.4825 times 10 to the 4th square miles. And just think of Texas as bigger than Ohio. We know that. Look at the exponents. What is the approximate sum of these sizes of Texas and Ohio when we put them together? Sum means to add. So we're going to add these amounts together. And if we did it without the calculator, we would have to slide that decimal over and have the same power of 10. Or you can put your calculator in scientific notation mode and just be sure to put grouping symbols in when you type in the quantities. You could have put them in standard form and added them together as well, and then put your answer back into scientific notation. Here's what I got, 3.13325 times 10 to the 5th power. And then the final question says, about how many times greater is the size of Texas than the size of Ohio? We've heard that question before. How many times greater is something compared to something? That is a division problem. So we want to know how many Ohios would fit into Texas. So the larger value goes on top, that's Texas, and we're going to set up a division problem. So again, I like to put my calculator in scientific notation mode, and I just make sure that, especially when I'm dividing, that I use those parentheses and I divide, and I get about 5.986. So that is about 6 times bigger or greater. And that makes sense, right? On the map, Texas is huge compared to Ohio, so about 6 Ohios would fit into Texas.